When you look at pictures like this, it's hard not to be mesmerized by the beauty, the majesty of nature. Now, for the first time ever, a new UN report has detailed the challenges that migratory species face across the globe, on land and in water. I spoke to the woman who leads the UN's Convention on Migratory Species, Amy Fraenkel, about her organization's stunning report. Your organization published a report, The State of the World's Migratory Species. Why was it important to compile and publish this report?
Migratory species, many people know migratory species, even if they don't realize that what they're looking at is something that moves. And that's what migratory species are. They're species that need to go to different places, geographical places during the course of their lives or even seasonally. And the basic idea behind it is that to conserve these animals, to make sure they're doing okay, one country cannot do it alone. You have to have cooperation, whether it's just between two countries or a region or even across continent. But what I realized when I came here as executive secretary is that we had never done a study looking at how are we doing? How well are these animals doing? Are they improving in terms of their status, their conservation status? Are they improving in terms of their likely survival and increased well-being, or are they getting worse, and why? So that's what this study is about. It's the first time that we've ever looked at all of the species, not only that we protect under CMS, but also globally. We looked at over 3,000 other species to see what are the trends. And some of those findings are quite startling and show that we have a lot to do ahead of us.
So tell us a little bit more about the findings. This is a comprehensive report. It's a groundbreaking report. What are some of your important findings that came out of it?
Well, the first finding is that things are not as good as they should be, and that about 44%, so not quite half, of the species that are listed on CMS under our treaty are actually declining. Their status is worse than we thought. Now, that has to be taken in context, because the reason why a species would be added to our treaty in the first place is because it needs to have cooperation. But we looked at trends over time. And so over time, we should be seeing improvements. And we have seen that we only have 14 species that we cite in the report that show really clear, strong improvement. Another, let's say 30% are stable, which is good, but 44% are going in the wrong direction.
Can you give us a sense about the types of recommendations and actions that you're looking for or you're calling for in this very important report?
There's really two types of broad conclusions that we would make. The first is, in general, that CMS parties, governments who have signed this agreement, have made a commitment under the agreement, who have a series of actions that they said need to be taken, this agreement needs to be fully implemented. A good example is when a species is listed on Appendix 1, it usually means that it's endangered or critically endangered. So it means it's really not in good shape. And that one of the key reasons for that is because it's being taken, i.e. hunted or killed in the wild. And so putting it on Appendix 1 is a means of saying, let's stop. So clearly there needs to be more action for enforcement to understand why is this happening? What's driving it? Is it economics? Is it food issues? Is it sport? Is it just a not understanding? So there's a lot of deeper analysis that we now want to do to try to bring the solutions to what we're finding. The second broad category of actions are beyond what CMS parties themselves, especially the environment ministries, can do. And this is really getting to the drivers of global environment change. One of the number one causes of problems for migratory species is the destruction of their habitat. And that can include, strong destruction of an area or fragmentation through roads or different development, so that it becomes splintered and the ecosystems that they rely on are no longer healthy and well functioning. So those are important. Ecosystems are obviously very critical for migratory species, but they're also important for broader services like, protecting watersheds, provision of fresh water, good biodiversity, and also climate change adaptation and mitigation.
What's the reaction been to the report so far?
Well, the reaction's been phenomenal.
Good.
And
It deserves a
know,
phenomenal response.
yeah, it really, I was very happy and just a bit surprised to see how widely this got picked up in the media, and not just, in large mainstream media, but also all over the world. So right now, our statistics show it's in well over 100 countries, have done articles on this in over 40 different languages. And it's amazing how much this got some airplay. And I really think the reason is, there's been so much discussion of environmental issues, but this is something that really people are touched by personally, and also it makes sense. It's easy to understand. People know about elephants, even if they've never seen them. They're iconic species. Birds, of course, many migratory species are birds that we deal with. Whales, turtles, there's some of the most amazing species in the world. And to find out that, for the first time, how they're doing, and that we really need to do better if we're going to ensure their survival, I think woke a lot of people up to this issue.
Well, and it's also, this report shows the importance of making sure that there's sort of a highly networked approach to reporting data and actions related to migratory species, because there are advocacy groups and technical groups that track elephants and other types of big cats and all this type of thing. But ensuring that all of this information is integrated, and that not only in terms of what's happening, but potential actions to address concerns related to the survivability of species. I think that's your unique role here, is bringing people together, and that's exciting. That's what the UN does.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for that. And I think that was one of the most exciting outcomes of this report that I've experienced, is that it's not just about communicating, it's about action. And there's a huge community of people working on issues related to this report. So this is something I wanted to see. So it's not just a general report and then it sits on a shelf. It really does lay out very specific things that can be done that would make a difference. And they're not, that hard to imagine. They're not technologically advanced. They're very, very straightforward recommendations.
We, as an advocacy organization, need to make sure that people appreciate that the United Nations and the member states of the UN are working to protect the survivability of these important species. And because we already know they care about the animals, we just need to make the connection to your very important work. This report exactly does that.
I'm glad that this report can demonstrate some of the good work we're doing, and while of course calling for additional action so that we can succeed.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for your leadership at CMS. Greatly appreciated. It means a lot to all of us.